The What to Read Next podcast helps you build a TBR of future favorite books. In each episode, Lori and Maine interviews authors and book influencers to recommend books they loved for you to pick up today. If you're an avid reader, always looking for your next great read, then the show. Hi, Evey. Welcome to What to Read Next podcast.
Hi, how are you today?
I'm doing good. How are you doing today?
Yeah, I'm good.
So tell us a little bit about yourself.
So I am originally from the Midwest, and I live in Europe. And during the pandemic, I got very homesick, so I started writing a lot of romance, small town romance, kind of based from where I kind of grew up, actually. So it's kind of like a homage to where I grew up, and I get to escape in my stories. And sadly, I did not have any brothers, best friends who own a winery, but if I did, then I'm sure I would have never left. So I ended up writing a few series, and every book is a standalone, but they are all in the same world, kind of. They all kind of interlink in some way. You run into characters you might have read in another book, and so forth. And it's steamy, but very low angst. It's heartwarming. It's an easy reads. I write for like an escape. I guess a lot of romance readers maybe call it a palate cleanser. Like after you've read maybe a dark romance, you need something to clear your senses, and that's what I would say in essence is my books.
All right. So we got to talk about, were you a romance reader growing up or like later in life and that led you to write romance? Or was it something different? Like you were like, I just needed this creative escape and I just allow myself to sit on my wander here.
I was never a big reader growing up. I do remember reading a few like Danielle Steele novels, and I was really into watching soap operas. I think I watched General Hospital like every day, Young and the Restless. But I wasn't really a reader in general for any genre. It was only when I had a child who never slept, and the only way they would maybe sleep is if I was holding them sitting up in bed. Then I kind of discovered ebooks. And then I think I read maybe a Vi Kalin's book was one of them. Bossman, I think, was the first one. And then somehow I just went down a rabbit hole and I just read and binge read so much romance books as romance readers do. And the writing kind of came in. I've always been a writer in terms of my other work, not romance related, but just general communications and writing and so forth. And then somehow a story just came to me. We were a few weeks into lockdown, the first lockdown where the world had no idea what was about to happen. And we were like in a very strict lockdown. We couldn't even go, walking on the street. We were in our house and we had no internet. I remember that because we just moved house. And somehow I found time while my child slept on me to write. And I just started writing. And I ended up releasing a lot of books in 2 years just because time was awarded to me from the way the world ended up in this crazy situation.
Yeah. So what has been the process for you to now, the world has opened up, I think, in somewhat, and, we're in the post-pandemic world and you have other responsibilities and other things. Like how have you been managing writing, So
I'm very lucky that now I get to do this full-time, or I guess you can say kind of part-time, since I still have to kind of wrangle in the small one. That's my other part of my life. So I've been very lucky and fortunate in that way to balance those two things. And that's more of a recent thing for me. But I kind of have a structured approach. Certain mornings of the week, I do my writing. There's certain times of the week that I know I'm not going to do anything book related. That's my time for something else. I do have to do laundry and cook and all that stuff. So luckily, I'm a very organized person and I love project management tools. I just kind of structure my days. And every Sunday, I have 5 different calendars and I go over everything I need to do. So that's how, luckily, and the ideas are still in my head. So I still have stories to write, so it keeps flowing.
That's exciting. So what has been the most surprising thing about publishing your books?
Just how quickly the industry changes and
Mhm.
what readers want, how it changes so quickly.
Mhm.
So what maybe is a popular trope 1 month, 3 months later, they're already on to a different trope that's really popular. Or example, heat levels as well. I feel like, we've always enjoyed our spicy romance and high heat romance, but I feel like as time goes on, it gets spicier and spicier, and that's what people want. So, and I just see, if you say what's popular from 6 months ago, it's completely different to what's popular now. So
Mhm.
it's just kind of amazing to see it. It's never, um, there is no formula to it. It's
Yeah.
constantly changing.
Yeah. So let's talk about Worth a Chance. What is the elevator pitch?
Well, so you have two enemies who they have a wild night together and they accidentally record it. And a few months later, the baseball player shows up on her blind date to inform her, oops, we have a problem. The video's been stolen. It might be leaked. So the solution is you need to come to my lake house and we need to hide out and to avoid that. And to her dismay, she agrees. But then she discovers he's also a single dad, which she did not know. And then slowly over time, they find their way to each other as you do in these books.
Well, that's an interesting forced proximity, oops, sex tape, which is like,
Yeah.
it can happen, with phones and
Yeah. Yeah.
everything. So,
Yeah. And that's the funny thing. I had to kind of like logistically, it is fiction, but we still
yeah.
like a little element of reality to it. So they did delete the video, but then it got saved to his cloud. It auto saved to his cloud, and he forgot about that.
Yeah.
So,
Oh my gosh. All right. What are you working next?
so this Worth a Chance is part of the Lake Spark series, and they all have something in common. One that it takes place in Lake Spark, a small town in somewhere in northern Illinois around the lake.
Mhm.
It's the off season for their sports. So the first book, Worth the Risk, was a football coach. Worth the Chance is baseball, and then coming up in June is Worth the Wait, which is hockey. And then they all live on the same street. They're all neighbors and they're friends. So you see some of the same characters throughout the books. So yeah, so I'm just about to get the advanced reader copies ready for the June release, Worth the Wait, which is hockey second chance. And again, it's in Lake Spark, neighbors, same street. So
Very
that's
good.
kind of where it is. So,
Awesome.
and it's been fun because a lot of readers really love the series. So it's definitely spinned ideas that we're going to have a spin-off series from this one. So it's going to keep going, but we're going to maybe focus more on hockey. So
Ooh, I love hockey romance, and I think there's a lot of readers who have there for hockey
no,
romance.
yeah, for sure. Yeah, yeah.
There's something to be about this aggressive sport. You're like, oh, it's Sudi.
Yeah, and I have to say, like Lake Spark, it's small town romance
Mhm.
first
Mhm.
with like a touch of sports. So sports is the second. Like it's
Yeah,
not the main driver of the stories, but it's very much a part of the stories, I have to say. But indeed, if I had to choose between both writing, watching, uh, I choose hockey for
yeah,
sure.
same here, same here. So, do you have any books to recommend our listeners to pick up?
So I have to say, my reading, I used to only really read really lighthearted romance. It's my escape. I don't want to be thrown into like an emotional cave, and it's no fun for me. However, I don't know how some of these people did it, but I got roped into the entire series from Chantal Tessier, The Ritual, The Sacrifice, which is it's dark. It's very dark. It's a lot of triggers. It is nothing I would ever read. I don't read college romance. Um, but for some reason, I went down a rabbit hole and I read the entire series, and it was a wild, wild ride. And I stayed on it. And so I read that entire series lately, which is not my normal genre at all. But I do recommend it if you enjoy dark romance and you can handle, I think there's pretty much every trigger you can think of, it's in that series. So I do be warned about that. But I understand why it's very, very popular. So that's what I was been reading. And then I'm a little late to the game, but I did finally get into TL Swan's books, and I finally read the series. I know everyone says they're team. I'm team Elliot. I know a lot of people say they're team Tristan, but I'm team Elliot. So I did love her. I guess you could say it's workplace romance since they're all CEOs business. But yeah.
Yeah.
So I've been reading basically everything that I do not write.
I love this. Well, sometimes you just need that break. You need that breather of like, reading something completely dark or something completely like different, like workplace, city place, big city romance when you're just like, I'm in this world writing the small town,
So I'm on Instagram and Facebook, BookBub, Goodreads. I am on TikTok. I don't know what's happening in the future of TikTok, but I am there. But I'd say I'm mostly active on Instagram, or I have a Facebook group, and it's all under the same handle, which is Evey Lyon Books. So,
thank you, Evey, for being on the show.
Thank you.
If you enjoyed this podcast, feel free to share with friends, subscribe, rate, and review the show. This is the easiest way to support the podcast. For a list of books mentioned and other book recommendations, please visit whattoreadnextblog.com. Thank you so much for listening and happy reading.